Hello and welcome to this practice paper for the 2023 exams. This time it's for Edexcel Foundation and it's paper 1, the non-calculator paper. To create this paper I've looked at the topics that tend to come up more often on paper 1 and also the topics that come up quite a lot across a whole series of papers, so I hope you find it useful. If you want to give this paper a go you can find a link to it in this video's description. So for question 1 we need to round 468 to the nearest 10. We identify the number in the tens column, that's this 6 here, then we can draw a line after that 6, and we need to check this 8 here to see if we round up or if we round down. Since 8 is 5 or greater we're going to round up, so the 6 will round up to a 7. So to round this to the nearest 10 we get 470. For the second question we need to find the value of 5 squared. When you do something squared you just times it by itself, so 5 times 5, which is 25. For this question we need to write these numbers in order starting with the smallest. I like to write these numbers out in a vertical fashion like this. I'm then going to add some zeros to make sure all of the numbers have the same length. So we'll put 1 0 on the 0.21, 1 on the 0.12, we'll put 2 on the 0.2, and the 0.112 already has 3 digits after the decimal place. It's now much easier to see which is the smallest number. So you should be able to see it's the last one, 0.112. So we'll pop that on the answer line and cross it off. Next, looking at the numbers, it must be 0.12, so that goes on the answer line, and we cross that as well. And the next one, 0.2, and we cross that one out, and the final one, 0.21. For this next question, we need to write 85% as a decimal. To write any percentage as a decimal, you just divide it by 100. So 85 divided by 100 is 0.85. For this question I need to write a multiple of 10 using the numbers from the list. Looking at the list there's only one multiple of 10 there, a multiple of 10 is just a number in the 10 times table, so the only answer I could pick is 20. For part B I need to do a factor of 12. A factor is a number that divides equally into that number, so we need to find a number that divides into 12. There are two possibilities for this one, I went for 2, but you could also have put 6. In this next question we need to simplify some algebraic expressions. For the first one I'm going to tackle the m times m first, which would give you m squared. We then multiply this by 7, so 7 times m squared is 7m squared. For part B we'll do 10x take away 1x first, which gives you 9x, and then we add 5x to that. So 9x add 5x is 14x. For part A of this question we need to write down the coordinates of the point B, that's this one here. You can see B is on the x-axis at the point 3, so the x-coordinate must be 3, and since it's on the x-axis the y-coordinate must be 0. For part B we need to write down the coordinates of the midpoint of CD. I find it's easier to connect up the point C and D first to create that line, and you should be able to see the midpoint of that line is exactly halfway along, which is here. To find the x-coordinate we'll go down to the x-axis down here, that's -3, and go across to the y-axis, that's 1. In this question we have a pictogram. It says the bag contains 50 discs, they're red, blue or yellow, and we're also given some information about the discs. We know there are 20 red and 16 blue. So if we add up the discs we already know about, 20 add 16, you get 36, and since there are 50 in total and the rest are yellow, we can do 50 take away 36, which leaves you with 14 yellow. So we now know all of the colours we need to add to the pictogram, but we've already got red drawn for us, and we know there are 20 red discs in here, so we can use this to help us create the key. In the key I'm going to put one circle and we need to work out what it represents. So if you look carefully at the top section of the pictogram, you can see that one circle must be 8, then we get a second circle, which is also 8, so 8 add 8 makes 16, and then half a circle, so half of 8, which is 4. And if you add the 8 and the 4 together, you do get 20 red discs. So each of the circles in the pictogram must represent 8 discs, so we'll add this to our key. Now we just need to complete it for blue and yellow. We're told in the question there are 16 blue, and if one circle is 8, then we need 2 circles for blue. And then on to yellow. We worked out there were 14 yellow, so if we take one circle that's 8, but if we took another circle that would be on 16, so that's too much. We need 6 more, which is actually 3/4 of one circle, so you draw something that looks like this. For part B of the question we need to work out the probability that a disc is red. So if we select a disc at random, there are 20 red ones, so it'll be 20, out of the total number of discs, which is 50. You may have simplified this down to something like 2 over 5, but you don't need to because the question doesn't ask us to. It's also a probability question, where usually any fraction that's correct will be acceptable. For this question, we've got Damien who buys 3 cans of drink and he pays with a £5 note and receives £3.5 in change. So if we do £5 take away £3.5, we'll find out how much he spent. To do this, we're going to need to cross off this 5, replace it with a 4, and then carry that 1 over here to the tens, and then cross off that 10, make it a 9, and carry 1 over to the units. We then do 10 take away 5, which is 5, 9 take away 0, which is 9, then we put our decimal point, and do 4 take away 3, which is 1. So it turns out he spent £1.95 on the cans of drink. But we're also told in the question that he buys 3 cans of drink, so we need to do £1.95 divided by 3. So if we draw a bus stop, and then we do £1.95 divided by 3, 3's into 1 is 0, so we carry that 1 over, 3's into 19 goes 6, which makes you 18, so there's 1 more left over, and 3's into 15 goes 5 times. So we find out the price of 1 can of drink is 65 pence. For this question, we need to multiply some fractions. To do that, you multiply the numerators, so we'll do 3 times 1, which is 3, and then multiply denominators, so 5 times 9 is 45. The question does ask for your answer in simplest form though, so we need to simplify this one. 3 goes into 3 and 3 goes into 45, so we'll divide them both by 3. 3 divided by 3 is just 1, and 45 divided by 3 is 15. So the simplified answer is 1 over 15. For this next question, we need to subtract some fractions. When you subtract fractions, you need a common denominator. Looking at the denominators we're given in the question, 3 and 9, the lowest common multiple of these is 9. So we're going to write both of these fractions over 9. If we look at 2/3, to get the 3 to 9 we multiply by 3, so we also multiply the 2 on the top by 3 to get 6. So 2/3 is the same as 6 over 9. Now the next fraction's already over 9, it's 2 over 9, so we can just write 2 over 9. Now to complete this question, we just do 6 take away 2, which is 4, and then we also keep this 9 on the bottom, so the answer is 4 over 9. For this question, we need to expand a bracket. To expand a bracket, we multiply everything outside the bracket by everything inside the bracket. So we're going to do 5 times 3 first, which gives you 15, and then 5 times negative x, which is negative 5x. The bracket's now gone since we've expanded, so the answer is 15 minus 5x. For part B of this question, it says factorise. This means we need to take out the highest common factor and put the brackets back in. It's like the reverse of expanding. Looking at the terms we have here, 7y and negative 14, I notice that 7 is a factor of both of them, so I can factorise out a 7. To make this work on the inside, I need to put a y, since 7 times y is 7y, and then negative 2, since 7 times negative 2 is negative 14. So the factorised version of this question is 7y minus 2. In this question, we've got bags of sweets at £3 and Karen has £23. We need to work out the maximum number of bags that Karen can buy. So if one bag is £3, then 2 bags will be £6. 3 bags will be £3 more, so £9, and then 4 bags, £12, and so on with the 3 times table, and we'll find out that 7 bags is £21, and 8 bags is £24. Now Karen only has £23, so she can't buy that 8th bag, she can only buy 7 bags. So the answer to part A is 7 bags. In part B, we've also got Kevin who has £23. The same as Karen. He says if we put our money together, we can now buy exactly twice as many bags of sweets. So, in part A, Karen could buy 7 bags of sweets. So if we do 7 times 2, then Kevin is suggesting they can buy exactly 14 bags of sweets. Now 14 bags of sweets would cost 14 times £3, which is £42. And if we work out the amount of money that Kevin and Karen have, that's 23 add 23, which is £46. So Kevin is suggesting they could spend £42, but actually they have £46. So they could buy an extra bag, since £42 plus £3 is £45. So Kevin is actually wrong, so we'd put a statement something like, no, they can actually buy more than twice as many, or perhaps they could buy an extra bag. In question 13a, we need to write the number of hot drinks to the number of cold drinks as a ratio, in its simplest form. So we're told that 30% of the drinks sold were hot drinks, so we can write that down. This means the rest must be cold drinks. Since that needs to add up to 100%, we can do 100, take away 30, which gives you 70%. So the ratio must be 30 to 70. We want this in simplest form though, so we're going to need to divide these both by 10. Dividing 30 by 10 gives you 3, and 70 by 10 gives you 7. So the fully simplified answer is 3 to 7. For part B of this question, we're given a ratio for the number of hot drinks to cold drinks, which is 3 to 2. We need to work out the percentage of drinks on Tuesday that were hot drinks. So let's write down the ratio first, 3 to 2. This means there were 3 parts for hot drinks and 2 parts for cold drinks. The total number of drinks must represent 100%. So if we're to split this 100% over the 5 boxes here, we need to do 100 divided by 5, which gives you 20%. So each one of these boxes represents 20%. Now we're asked for the percentage of drinks that were hot drinks in the question, and that's represented by the 3 parts in the ratio, so we need these 3 boxes here. So 20%, 20%, and another 20% gives you 60%, which is the answer to the question. For this question, we need to work out 65% of 220. I'm going to start by doing 50%. To do this, I just half 220, which gives me 110. Then I'll do 10% of 220, which you just divide it by 10, which gives you 22. And then 5%, which will be half of 10%. So since 10% was 22, we can half this to get 11. Now notice if I add up all of these percentages, 50 add 10 add 5, I get 65%. So I can just add up these drinks, 110 add 22 add 11, gives you 143 drinks, which is the answer to the question. For this question, I need to work out the probability that the spinner will not land on C. So if it doesn't land on C, it could land on any of the other 4 sections shown here. So there are 4 sections that work out of a total of 5 sections, so the probability will be 4 over 5. For part B, we're going to spin the spinner 300 times, and we need to work out an estimate for the number of times the spinner will land on the letter A. If we look at the spinner, there are 3 sections for A, so the probability of landing on A is 3 out of 5, since there are 5 sections in total. Since we spin this spinner 300 times, we need to then work out 3/5 of 300. To work out 3/5 of 300, we do 300 divided by 5 first, which gives you 60, and then we multiply by the 3 on the top of the fraction, so 60 times 3, which is 180. So the answer for the estimate of number of times it will land on A is 180. In this question, we're told that the copier can produce 300 copies in 6 minutes. But we need to work out how many copies 11 of the copiers could do, but in 4 minutes. So let's first of all try and work out what one copier could do in 4 minutes. If we divide 6 minutes by 6, we end up with 1 minute. So if we divide 300 copies by 6, we get 50 copies. So one of these copiers can do 50 copies in 1 minute. If we now multiply this by 4, 1 minute times 4 is 4 minutes, and 50 copies times 4 is 200 copies. So one of the machines could do 200 copies in 4 minutes. But we've got 11 machines going, so we can take this 200 and multiply it by 11, which gives you 2,200 copies, and the answer to the question. In this question, we're given a recipe for 10 pancakes, and we need to work out how much flour we need for 25 pancakes. So if we look at the flour we need for 10 pancakes, that's 300 grams in the question, so 10 pancakes requires 300 grams. If we divide both of these by 2, then we find out how much we need for 5 pancakes. 300 divided by 2 is 150 grams. We can now multiply this by 5 to get to 25 pancakes. 5 times 5 is 25, and 150 times 5 is 750 grams. So 25 pancakes require 750 grams. In the question though, it asks for your answer in kilograms. There are 1,000 grams in a kilogram, so we do 750 divided by 1,000, which is 0.75 kilograms. For part B of this question, we're told that Sarah has 2 litres of milk, and we need to show she has enough milk for exactly 50 pancakes. So for 10 pancakes, you require 40 centilitres of milk. So for 50 pancakes, we'll need 5 times as much, since 10 times 5 is 50, and then we do 40 times 5, which is 200 centilitres of milk. Now 1 litre is the same as 100 centilitres. Since centi means 100, we're splitting a litre into 100 parts. So 2 litres must be 200 centilitres. We need 200 centilitres in the question, and Sarah has exactly 2 litres of milk. So we've now shown that she has exactly enough milk for 50 pancakes. For this question, we need to describe the single transformation that maps triangle A onto triangle B. So if we draw triangle A like this, and we just move it 1 square to the right, and then a 2nd square to the right, it lands perfectly on B. So all we've done is move the shape. The mathematical name for this is a translation. So we'd get 1 mark for writing translation, and the second mark for describing how we got there. We do that using a vector, so we say with the vector, and then we need to put 2 numbers into this vector. The top number tells you how far you move left or right, and we move right 2 spaces, so we'll put a +2, and we didn't move up or down at all, so we'll put a 0 for the second number. For part B of this question, we need to rotate the triangle C 90 degrees clockwise about the origin. So we'll pop some tracing paper over this. In the exam, make sure you ask for some tracing paper as it may not be handed out for you. Then trace over the shape, and then it says in the question we need to go 90 degrees about the origin. So we'll also put a cross at the origin, and this is where you place your pen or pencil. We then turn it 90 degrees clockwise, which is 1/4 of a turn the way a clock goes round. So something like this. And then we draw the shape in that final position. So take your tracing paper off and draw the shape here. In the question it says label it triangle D, so we've put a D onto the shape. And that's the answer to the question. In this question we're given a formula here. T equals 5m plus 7, and we need to work out the value of t when m equals 3. To do this, we copy out the formula, but instead of m, we write 3. So we've got t equals, then it says 5m, but we know m is 3, so it's 5 times 3, then plus 7. We can work this out. 5 times 3 is just 15, and then plus 7, and then you do 15 plus 7, and you'll find that t is equal to 22. For the second part, we'll do the same idea, but this time we're told that t is 32. So we'll copy this formula out, t equals 5m plus 7, but replace the t with 32. So t equals, but we know t is 32, so 32 equals 5m plus 7. We're trying to find the value of m, so we've got an equation to solve here. If we subtract 7 from both sides, on the left-hand side, 32 takes 7 is 25, and subtracting 7 from the right-hand side will cancel out that plus 7 that's already there, so you're just left with 5m. Now we can divide both sides by 5, 25 divided by 5 is 5, and 5m divided by 5 is m. So we find that m is equal to 5. For this question we need to work out George's average speed. You can calculate average speed using the formula speed equals distance divided by time. We need to give it in meters per second though, but the information given in the question is in kilometers and minutes. So let's turn those kilometers and minutes into meters and seconds. So starting with the 2.4 kilometers, there are 1,000 meters in a kilometer. So 2.4 kilometers, if we multiply this by 1,000, gives you 2,400 meters. And now for the minutes, there are 60 seconds in 1 minute, so if we do 60 times 10, we find out that 10 minutes is 600 seconds. We can now use the formula speed equals distance divided by time. So we do our distance, but in meters, which was 2,400, divide by our time, but in seconds, so divide by 600 seconds. If you do 2,400 divide by 600, you just get 4. So the answer is 4 meters per second. For this question, we're going to write 45 as a product of prime factors. To do this, we'll start with 45, and think of 2 numbers that multiply to make it. I'm going to go for 9 times 5. If any of those are prime numbers, we circle them, so the 5 is prime, so we'll pop that in a circle. 9 isn't though, we can split 9 again into 3 times 3. And both of these are prime now, so we can circle those. Now we've finished, we multiply all of the numbers in circles together since they're prime numbers. So 3 times 5. And depending on what the question says, you may want to group these two 3's here to 3 squared. So I'm going to put the answer as 3 squared times 5. When you raise a bracket to a power, you multiply whatever's inside the bracket by the number of times of the power outside the bracket. So we're going to do p to the power 5 times by itself 4 times. So once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. To do this, you can now just add up all of the indices since we're multiplying. So 5 add 5 add 5 add 5 gives you 20. So it's p to the power 20. For this next one, we've got 2 to the power 6 divided by 2 to the power 3. As long as the base numbers are the same, you can subtract indices when you divide. So we need to do 6 take away 3, which is 3. So this one is just the same as 2 to the power 3. Now 2 to the power 3 is just 2 times 2 times 2, which gives you 8. A really common wrong answer here is to do 6 divided by 3, which gives you 2. But unfortunately, when you divide, you subtract the powers. We're given a number in standard form here, and we need to write it as an ordinary number. Notice it's multiplied by 10 to the power 5, which is just 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 again, which is 100,000. So we just need to do 8.2 multiplied by 100,000, which gives you 820,000. For the second part, we're multiplying by 10 to the power negative 2. Now if you think about 10 to the power positive 2, that's 10 times 10, which is 100, but since it's a negative power, we're not going to multiply anymore, we're going to divide. So we're going to do 3.14 divide by 100. If you do 3.14 divided by 100, all of the digits in the 3.14 will move 2 spaces to the right, so you end up with 0.0314. For this question, we need to work out an estimate for the area of the rectangle ABCD. Since it says an estimate, we're not interested in the exact answer, we just want to know roughly what it is. So to do that, we're going to round the numbers given in the question, usually to one significant figure. So here we have a 29, we're going to round that up to 30, and here we have a 19.2, we'll round that up to 20. So the estimate for our area will be the length times the width, which is going to be 20 times 30, which gives you 600 centimeters squared. For part B, we're asked if this was an underestimate or an overestimate. We need to consider what we did with our rounded numbers. The 30 was actually 29, so we rounded it up. The 20 was actually 19.2, so that was also rounded up. So we actually multiplied two numbers that were slightly bigger than they were supposed to be. So our answer is a little bit bigger than the real answer to this question. So we've actually overestimated. So you'd say it's an overestimate as both numbers were rounded up. In this question, we've got lots of information. We're going to focus on the 5 PM showing of the film first. Here we're told the ratio of the number of tickets to adults to tickets to children was 5 to 3. And we're also told that 120 of those tickets were sold to children. So we'll write down this ratio, adults to children is 5 to 3, but we know 120 went to children, so we can write that underneath the children column like this. Now we consider how we get from the 3 to the 120, which is times by 40. So we also multiply the 5 by 40 to get 200. So 200 of the tickets were sold to adults and 120 were sold to children. Now let's look at the 7 PM showing of the film. This time the number of adult tickets sold was 15% less than at 5 PM. At 5 PM we sold 200 tickets, so we need to do 15% less than 200. To do this, we'll find 15% of 200. To do this, you can find 10%, which would be 20, and half of this to get 5%, which would be 10. So if 10% is 20 and 5% is 10, then 15% will be 20 plus 10, which is 30. So 15% is 30 tickets, but it was 15% less. Less than 200, so we do 200 take away 30, which is 170. So at the 7 PM showing, there are only 170 adult tickets. We're also told about the child tickets, this time it's 10% more than at 5 PM. At 5 PM, the child tickets were 120, so we need to find 10% of 120. To do this, you can just divide 120 by 10, which is 12. And it's 10% more this time, so if we do 120 plus 12, we get 132. We've been asked to show that at 7 PM more than 3/4 of the seats we used. So if we add up the seats that we used, there were 170 for adults and 132 for children, which gives you 302. Now right at the start of the question, you're told the cinema has 400 seats. To do 3/4 of 400, you do 400 divided by 4, and then times by 3, which gives you 300. So 3/4 of the seats is 300, and we've shown that there are 302 used. And 302 is greater than 300, so we've now shown what we were asked to in the question. In this question, we're asked to show that 14x plus 12 equals 54, and we're told the perimeter of the rectangle is 54. So let's work out an expression for the perimeter of the rectangle. If we look at the rectangle, we can see it's x plus 7 on the side and 6x minus 1 on the top. Since it's a rectangle, the other sides opposite those must also be the same lengths. So we end up with an x plus 7 on the right and a 6x minus 1 on the bottom. To find the perimeter of a rectangle, you add up all of the lengths of its sides. So if we add up x plus 7 and 6x minus 1, and the other x plus 7 and the other 6x minus 1, this must give you the perimeter, which we're told in the question is 54. We can now collect like terms, so we've got all of the terms in x, which is x, 6x, plus 6x. If you add x and 6x and 1x and 6x, you get 14x. And now for the constant terms, we've got plus 7 minus 1 plus 7 minus 1. 7 minus 1 is 6, plus 7 is 13, and then take away 1 is 12. So plus 12 equals 54, which is what we were asked to show in the question. For the second part of the question, we're asked to find x. and to do this we're just going to solve the equation we have. First of all, we'll take away 12 from both sides. If you take it away from the left, it will cancel this positive 12, leaving you with 14x. And then on the right hand side, 54 take away 12 gives you 42. Now you can divide both sides by 14. 14x divided by 14 is 1x, and 42 divided by 14 is 3. So the answer to this question is x equals 3. And on to the final question. So for this one we need to work out the nth term of this sequence. To do that we're going to work out the difference between each of the terms, and in this one it's plus 5. This will mean it's a 5n sequence, so we can put 5n in the answer, but there's a bit more to do. The 5n sequence is just the 5 times table. So if we write the 5 times table above the sequence like this, we need to consider how we get from 5n to our sequence. Now in all cases, we're going to need to add 7. Since 5 add 7 is 12, 10 add 7 is 17, 15 add 7 is 22, and 20 add 7 is 27. So the answer to this question is 5n plus 7. For the final part of this question, we need to find the 9th term of another sequence. To do this, you take the nth term which we're given is 7n minus 13, and you substitute the n for 9. So instead of 7 times n minus 13, it's 7 times 9 minus 13. 7 times 9 is 63, and if you do 63 minus 13, you get 50. Thank you for watching this video, I hope you found it useful. I've put some suggested grade boundaries here. You can take these with a pinch of salt, but they're similar to how they've been in previous years. Check out the video I think you should watch next and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos.